The Blokebusters podcast is a proud member of the Pod Bros Network, where you can find us as well as other excellent podcasts such as Sarcasm City, Worst Millennials, and Late Night Gamers at podbros.com. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy another episode of the Blokebusters podcast.
Tonight's story is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction.
Who's going on? Today we are canceling the apocalypse!
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet.
And this is?
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Houston, we have a problem.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Now, where was I?
Welcome to episode 99 of the Blokebusters podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Paul.
And today we will be talking about the Netflix original Bright, starring Will Smith, among others. Before we get into all of that, which I think we're both eager to do, first, Paul, would you mind telling people where they can find us on the interwebs?
Sure, and I will preface this very quickly. I am just coming off the end of something, don't know what, so if you
don't
notice...
expect a record time on this one, or a coherent time on this one.
No.
More accurately.
So yes, if you hear a bit of a weird thing in my voice, that's what it is. I apologise, but we wanted to get something recorded. So... we are on Facebook.com/Blokebusters. We're on Twitter @Blokebusters. We're on Instagram @Blokebusters. You can email us blokebusterpodcast@gmail.com. And we have a website, blokebusters.webs.com, or you can go to podbros.com, look for Blokebusters, and kind of nice looking site there. They've got plenty of other great shows. Just go check them out. Alright.
Well done.
So, Bright. Bright was directed by David Ayer. I'm fairly certain that's how you say that man's name.
Yep.
Has a budget of $90 million and a box office of, I don't know. I mean, it's on Netflix, so it's whatever Netflix decides to put back into it, really.
I believe it's Ayer, but just in it, yeah.
Okay, well, I'd rather rather get it right at the top there.
Oops, sorry.
And, so this film... we looked it up beforehand, and I thought it was really interesting. The Rotten Tomatoes score is 27% of critics and 17% from the top critics, but an audience score of 86%. So this film appears to be quite polarizing, depending on who's watching it.
Yeah. And I want to say before we get too much further along, if you're new with us, we are a spoiler cast. So any thing like that, if you haven't seen the film, please, if you so desire, maybe you want to keep listening to see if that would be a good idea or not. But but we will be talking about all parts of the movie.
And we do jump back and forth.
So if that kind of thing bothers you, and you want to see the film first, then do that. But that being said,
so obviously the main cast, I've only written down 4 here. We will mention any others that might become relevant as we go on. Obviously, Big Willie as Del Ward. And probably the biggest draw for people watching this film in the first place.
Couldn't get him into Independence Day 2, but we got him in this.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, alright.
Alright.
We had Joel Edgerton as Nick Jacoby, who is the Orc, the first Orc on the police force. I don't know if it's the first Orc on any police force, but at least this police force. Noomi Rapace as Layla, who is the bad elf. As I believe Brian has in his notes.
Yes, bad elf.
And Lucy Fry as Tika, who is the good elf, who has the wand that kicks this whole thing off, really.
Yeah.
So there you go.
All right. So, as we tend to do, Paul and I generally don't get into too much discussion on these things beforehand, so I don't know what Paul thought of this. Paul doesn't know what I thought of this, other than maybe our previous experiences guiding us into educated guesses here. But Paul, what did you think of Bright?
What did I think of Bright? Well, I'm someone that can generally leave a critical view of it for afterwards when I'm actually going back over it and I can think of all of that stuff. So my initial just watching it just to watch it I actually didn't mind it. I quite enjoyed seeing it. I was actually watching it with both my wife and my mother, who both had no idea what was going on. My mum fell asleep several times during this film, and then woke up and was then confused because she wasn't sure what was happening. And it was like, well, no shit. So there you go. Yeah, I enjoyed it because I viewed it myself as sort of the beginning of world building, and they clearly are leading to something that they've announced a sequel. I'll say that now. That I think they're going to be.
They announced a sequel before I think this one even came out.
Either that or like the day after or something. Like that, So yeah, I think that what this film is going to serve as is just the world building, and then they're going to try and actually give a proper plot later. But I didn't mind it, and I kind of enjoyed the more gritty nature of it as opposed to, say, Lord of the Rings, which I would say is more kind of a, oh, look, it's so cute. And then you've got the big black bad guy. I liked that it was all, like, gritty.
Should I ask for a clarification on big bad black guy?
Okay. Yes. Fair enough.
I just don't want you to get too much hate.
Yes, no, fair enough. I purely mean the clothing.
Okay,
like,
thank you.
All the Nazguls, they're in the big black robes.
Okay,
like,
I just wanted to save you some interweb hate there.
Yeah,
so,
fair enough. I did not think how that might come across when I said it. So.
Okay.
Apologies for any race quits right there.
Okay, glad we nipped that in the bud.
But yeah, now critically, I'll say that I can fully understand a lot of the hate towards this film, and that being said, Brian, what did you think of this film?
Well, if people are familiar with me, I'm a big old stick in the mud. I fucking hated this movie.
I thought that might be the case.
I turned this down once as a suggestion from Paul, and then just relented and just let it happen. And that turned out to be a big mistake. I should have put up more of a fight. But,
I got one Will Smith film out of here.
But that being said, it is, I think, going to make for some fun discussion. Mm-hmm. You spoke of world building, and I think this is some of the shoddiest, shittiest, haphazard, laziest world building I've ever seen in a film. They launched a sequel, but this movie felt like it was a third or fourth installment.
Okay.
And that somewhat early on, they talk about being blooded. No one knows what the fuck you're talking about, and you've not explained that. You've not explained. I mean, we're jumping way ahead, but hour and a half into the movie, we finally get some exposition into what happened with this orc farmer and the 9 armies defeating this Dark Lord. But that isn't 90 minutes into the movie before we ever get any explanation into sort of what happened in this world. And we're just jumping around with elves, and then we get the Magic Task Force. Ugh, grown with that name.
Fair enough.
That's the best you could come up with. Magic Task Force.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah. But it was just all over the place with just jumping around. I wrote down at the end, this film was trying to wear too many hats, and when you wear too many hats, you just end up looking like a jackass. I don't know, it annoyed me from probably about 15 minutes in. I think I had it where I gave up on it. I'm trying to figure out where I gave up on it, but it was early on.
Okay.
I think it might have been this slow motion shoot 'em up.
Okay.
I think it was before that.
But that was a little bit further in.
Yeah. I think it was before that where I really threw in the towel.
Okay.
Yeah. It might have been Magic Task Force. Where I'm like, I'm not going to be on board with this.
Yeah.
So, where do you want to go from here? Okay. Since we're at maybe our biggest discrepancy since Guardians 2.
Possibly, possibly. I don't know. I do find it interesting. Like I said, I can see why people wouldn't like this. I mean, it is, as you said, I do think it'll work well as kind of world building. Now, I will also accept your point that the world building isn't great.
It's not great, it's bad.
Yes.
It's straight up bad.
There are definitely better ways they could have done it. But I am the sort of person that I'm fine with unanswered questions as long as I'm invested in the character.
Mm-hmm. But let's not confuse intrigue for bad screenwriting.
No, yes, and that's the thing. So I'm probably willing to forgive some of that just because I don't mind not knowing. Mm-hmm. Whereas when it comes to world building, you typically want to put it up front. But I am, at this point, kind of fed up with the only form of world building that these sorts of films seem to know, which is, hey, you've got 10 minutes before the film starts, why don't we do a voiceover and some flashbacks and stuff like that? I didn't want any of that. So I was really happy we didn't get that. And but we just got the dialogue.
There are clever ways to do exposition. But, I mean, Black Mirror does it really well. Yep. Just coming off some... with exposition, I mean, we'll get into it much more when we do that episode. But like the Black Museum episode does a great job of essentially giving you exposition the whole time.
Yep.
But does it in such a storytelling way. Mm-hmm. So there is a good way to do it without it being forced.
Yeah.
That's not. Yeah. So we just got confusion, I think, for the most part. So I don't think you need to be asleep to be confused for this film. No. I was confused for most of this because they don't really let you know what the hell is happening.
No, not really. My mum, despite the fact that I said she fell asleep through it, is totally convinced that she did not fall asleep once during this film. However, about 10 minutes after the interrogation scene with the Magic Task Force agents, they then start talking about exactly what they were talking to him about, but other characters are saying it, and she's saying, well, what? Like, what happened? Wait, when did they say this? Like, what? Who's the Dark Lord? Like, what's that? And it's like, they just talked about it in the scene, like, the guy with the agent. They're like, no, I was awake during that scene. No, we didn't see it. They didn't mention it at all. It's like, no, they did. And I feel that maybe some people kind of like you were checked out so much that the odd line of dialogue might slip by, and then that's the thing that you need to focus on. So, yeah, I'll admit that they might have put the expositional dialogue in the wrong place, like in a scene. Maybe they put it in another scene rather than a more leisurely, no action type scene, so people's attention aren't quite there, especially if you've started to lose people's attention by that point. So yeah, I think if it were me, I would maybe have wanted a couple more test screenings, if there even were any, and like get that, and so maybe we'll just reshoot this and we'll have someone talking about it while ducking gunfire. So
oh my god, else. The gunfire. Okay. Maybe that's pretty... Holy shit. I felt like... I mean, we'll kind of get into the plot of this in just a second, I think, just to help you along if you're not familiar with it. But I felt like there was a meeting where, okay, we shoot guns a lot and we swear a lot, movie equals movie awesome. Like, and you were like up top, you were saying like you liked the grittier, harder tone of this.
Yeah.
That's not what I was expecting with this. That's not to say I mind those things.
Yeah.
But my point is, when I go into a Tarantino film, I know what I'm getting.
Right.
But I thought in this film the swearing was excessive.
Yeah.
And that is for someone that loves a good swear. I dropped an F-bomb 2 minutes into this episode. Maybe not even that. But I just thought I think that was indicative of lazy screenwriting. When you have that much F-words, and so it's like, if that's your primary adjective, you're not trying.
Yeah.
And they seemed to... they were trying to be edgy and not actually being edgy. It was the appearance of edginess.
Yeah.
And then just the constant gunfire through it. Like, okay, just machine gun fire for 30 seconds straight.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. No, sir, I didn't like it.
No, it was an interesting thing. I mean, obviously not growing up in or around anywhere where there was any sort of gang activity or things like that. I am not one to speak to how easily accessible submachine guns and mounted machine guns are, but it seems to me that if the gangs don't have an understanding with the police force, something has gone wrong in this town, because when they end up being chased by the gang that are after the wand, that they are chased by people that are quite heavily armed with a vehicle with a mounted machine gun on it.
Yeah,
so like how
it's like they're all like Mad Max prepped. Yeah,
and it's like, okay, is this a regular thing? Do they go to the shops and just mow down the odd bystander or something? Like I don't know. That was one thing that I was like, okay, I know you're supposed to suspend disbelief in this magical races looking after one thing, but that's too far.
Yeah, that was too far? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but, yeah, and the swearing, yeah, I understand, kind of, I don't want a devil's advocate here, but, both points where you've got all of these people that are swearing a lot, and then you will have the other side of, well, there are plenty of people that are just like that, and I don't know if they're trying to do a thing where they're saying, our people that are just leaning on swear words as a crutch are less intelligent. Oh, look, the entire police force is doing that. Like,
no, yeah.
Or
but
maybe that, or it could just be that they actually went and talked to police officers, and that is just how they talk. Like, that's how they do it. That's how they blow off the steam of the job or something.
I will say that, yes, real life, I've read sites where like swearing is a sign of higher intelligence and things like that, but this was written. Yes. Someone typed this, and when you look at it from that standpoint, like if I'm noticing it, then then to me it's a problem. It's like special effects. Like I shouldn't be noticing those shots. Those moments. If it's sticking out to me, then that to me signals something's wrong.
Yeah, it doesn't feel perfectly natural.
Yeah, like I said, it's felt forced a lot of the times. Like, we're going to be really gritty. We're going to be, like, the wire of, like, swearing here. But let's get into a little bit of what this movie was supposedly about.
I feel like we should at this point.
So we get an opening title card of only a bright can control the power of the wand. The great prophecy, something, John 25:14, whatever it was. Yeah. So something along those lines. Like, okay, cool. And then we're immediately thrown into this world of fantasy creatures coexisting with humans.
Yes.
And
they've been around for thousands of years. You've got orcs, you got fairies, you got elves, you got centaurs.
Before we get too far into the plot here, that opening fairy scene, that was disturbing. That straight up fairy murder. Yeah. Like, this is a sentient being who Will Smith straight up murders.
He does, yes.
I'm not even going to comment on the fairy lives don't matter line. I'll just say it and move on. But Will Smith said it, so good. Okay. Yeah.
He felt alright saying it.
Yes, so good on them, I suppose. But that was bizarre.
It was a little odd. I do wonder if, and again, like, they already had a 2-hour film. I assume they didn't want to shove more like exposition into where the different fantasy creatures lie. Like, are the fairies basically the pigeons of the fantasy world? Like, are they just really the slightly more intelligent but even more annoying because of it? Little pests that are everywhere, because that's kind of the vibe I got from it. So, I mean, yeah, it was a bit of a weird thing. I mean, they put it in the trailer, and I felt...
I didn't watch the trailer.
I felt it was more of a trailer moment than it worked in the film based on everything we got after that. Because it very much was just like, killing a pest, and then like he has to go into work and do all this weird stuff. Whereas in this, they focused way more on it, and it was it lingered too long. I think they should have put it in the trailer and then kind of left it and not done it in the actual film. Just because, hey, I'm a component of film stuff just for the trailer. Don't show me the whole film. But yes, the one thing I thought was interesting that both my wife and my mum didn't pick up on is during the opening credits, you have the graffiti on the buildings as it's going by and giving you all the name. And if you're paying enough attention to the graffiti, you kind of do get a little bit of the backstory of, obviously, the Dark Lord, which... Every time they said that, I just couldn't think of anything other than Voldemort. So that was going to be there. Obviously, Harry Potter does not own the phrase "the Dark Lord," but it may as well.
But it did exist already, so maybe come up with a different.
Maybe
name.
the Dark Prince. I don't know, something. The Dark King. But anyway, besides that, there's a lot of graffiti of the Dark Lord and the Dark Lord coming back, or it's been thousands of years since we beat it and we're still slaves. Like little things like that. It was like, oh, okay, so this something happened. Maybe we'll find out about it. Maybe we won't. But something happened back then. Okay, interesting. And then throughout the film, you get the odd bit and here and there on it. But yeah, so I was watching that. I was like, oh, okay. And then 5 minutes into the film, again, I don't know if it was my wife or my mum, but they just started like, who's the Dark Lord? What? I was like, it was in the credits. What? The graffiti? What graffiti? Okay, you were checked out 5 seconds in.
But that is also a clue as to if people were losing that.
Yeah.
That's not being well. Like, not saying I'm not a fan of things being beat over your head either.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're setting up a world, you need to make sure people are on board with it.
Oh, definitely. And I think one problem with this film might be that the premise of it is kind of niche a little bit. Like it's a mix of fantasy races in a police drama, kind of, with action. And I'm obviously a fan of, I would say, about 2 out of those 3 generally when it comes to what it does. So I was kind of on board with the idea. And then as the film goes on, obviously you make your own choices, one side or the other. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like there are a lot of people that will completely dismiss this film out of hand just because they'll hear it, and they're the sort of person that goes, hobbits. What the hell's a hobbit? I don't care. Like, so they're not going to give this a chance. And then, maybe someone else will want to watch it. I'll go, okay, I'll watch it. Oh, this is stupid. Just get throughout the whole thing, and I wonder if maybe there was another way that they could have sold this to kind of...
I don't know. I don't...
I'm not a marketing expert, so unfortunately I can't answer that question.
I spent a lot of time watching this. Was there a good movie here? And I don't think there was.
Okay.
I just thought they were putting too many ingredients into the pot. Yep. And it was just going to be a mishmash disaster for me either way, and for apparently most critics at least.
Yep.
But
fair enough.
yeah, so not to call myself one because I'm not. Only in the very amateur sense.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't even know where I want to go from here.
Okay, so getting back into it.
Yeah, I derailed us with the plot. So really quickly summed up, there's this wand. Another quick side note: if you want to play a fun drinking game, every time they say wand, punch yourself in the face. And you won't have to watch most of the movie. But so anyway, there's a wand that exists. Good guys found it. Bad guys are after it.
Yes, the bad guy.
End of plot.
The bad guy sort of initially had it, and then it got stolen by someone that was with them but wanted to escape. And if the bad guy gets that wand and 2 others, which, and again, this is the point where they really didn't even actually give enough information for you to get a full thing on, she may or may not already have the other 2, then the Dark Lord can come back because, enough magic, right spell, resurrection. That's basically the idea there. And I was thinking as I was watching this, I didn't think, by about an hour in, I was like, I don't think we're going to see the Dark Lord in this one. Because given everything that was going on, I was like, I didn't want them to, but I was really hoping that they wouldn't lead to a Dark Lord fight at the end, because quite frankly, based on everything they've talked about with the Dark Lord, there is no way they would win. There would just be, 3 of them. And then the Dark Lord would be back and they would all die, and that would be the end of the film. There would be no... I know you would say there isn't, but there would be no upside to the other. But yes, I figured fairly early on that this wasn't going to be a Dark Lord big closer. Maybe that'll be something that will happen in the next one, and they'll actually...
You might be going solo on that one.
That's right. I think you can probably guess at this point, listeners, that we won't be doing Bright 2.
We won't be. If Paul decides to release a single episode,
I might do a mini one on it.
Yeah, mini episode. Yeah.
But yes,
they did not intrigue me enough to continue down this path.
Yeah. So one, basically, imagine the highest concentration of magic you can possibly get into something roughly the size of the plutonium rod from The Simpsons when it won the
Infinity Stone.
Oh, you got a frog in your throat there?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I wonder where they got this magical object idea. I mean, not that Infinity Stone was the beginning of that. But
So one of these things that anyone that touches
the ring, whatever.
Anyone that touches it with their bare hand that isn't one of... I don't know if it's a lineage or if it's one of the things of, like, in a generation there's like 3 or something. Magic, so it could really be anything. But if you're not one of these brights, then touching it will kill you instantly and apparently release a shockwave of some kind.
Which may or may not kill you in a close-knit room, depending on your importance to the plot.
Yes. And I'll accept that. Because that happens in every action film ever. So it's the same with the Stormtrooper effect of pretty much every... For instance, they go
no, because this is magic, Paul. No, They're saying everyone gets wiped out, which we later see, but when the first gang member touches it, Will Smith is standing 10 feet away.
Yes.
And it's fine.
He is a bright, though. It's basically given...
And also John Jacoby's in the room as well.
He is, yes.
And it's not a bright, as far as we know.
No, yeah, he's never touched it. Well...
So, yeah.
Yeah, I have nothing for that.
You have no defense on it.
I have no for that.
That's just, bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's... if you could drop a grenade in the middle of the Expendables cast and they would all walk away with maybe a stubbed toe.
Well, we're not here to talk about the Expendables.
I know. Yeah, it's basically that.
But, I mean, if you set up rules...
You need to follow them.
Then you need to follow
them. And I will accept that this film definitely went for spectacle over logic most of the time. Because, fair enough, it's an action film. You want to see action, you want to see bad things happen to bad people, you want the good guys to get away. And unfortunately, when you have all of that together, there's going to be some discrepancies when it comes to, things that should happen that just
Once
don't.
Again, I should say, creative screenwriting helps you around those, or it gets out of this painted into corners.
Yeah, I mean, I would, if it were me, I would say that you've got Jacoby, maybe he was given a ring when he was younger by his mother or something, just a keepsake, and it turns out that it has some sort of a barrier spell in it that protects him from that sort of stuff. Just a sideline.
But if we're going to the extent of creating that narrative in our head, then red flag.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You need to make excuses. Yeah.
There are several points where it's just action film logic is the only thing that explains away this stuff. It's of course those two are fine, or at least relatively fine, because without it there's no film.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, alright. Concede slightly.
Yeah.
But still, that bugged me. I mean, this wand thing, I just was never on board with this wand.
Yep, fair enough.
It wasn't an interesting premise for me.
No.
It was the One Ring. It was an infinity. It was just this magical, object that, I just blah. I just okay, great. You can't touch it. Ooh, what a twist! And you don't. I mean, I wrote down like probably 40 minutes into the movie. What is a bright? Because they still had not really laid that out.
No, they had not. You know what I think would have been a better way of doing it would have been to have Tika be the wand. Mm-hmm. Like, she herself is the wand.
Tika, a good elf lady.
Yes, a good elf lady that
for
took the wand. Score. Because you've got ways of making sure that nobody touches her. Like, she'll shy away from people because she's caused several people to spontaneously combust. And then you would have Will Smith would be able to, like, touch her and, like, protect her and all of this sort of stuff, and then it would only be towards the end that you realise that, oh, she's the one. Like, yeah, she could have something in her possession that she waves, and everyone thinks that's the one, but no, it's her. And I think that would be good, because then you've got this bad elf that's amassing these wands, and you know that in using the power of the wand, they'll die. Like, it'll be something like that. Hi Netflix, get a hold of me. I think I might have saved it. Yeah. But yeah, obviously we did not rent this film. We had no input there. But,
but
I feel like that might have helped there. Well, okay, I want to know, obviously you're not a fan of the film?
Nope.
Did you like any of the performances?
Short answer, no.
Okay. Alright, fair enough.
But that ties into a little... I mean, if you gotta pick... I mean, I wouldn't even say a performance I liked. The performance that least annoyed me, or that I didn't mind the most, would probably be Will Smith's.
Okay.
And this allows me to go down this path for a little bit. I'm somewhat over Will Smith being an action star at this point.
Right.
With After Earth and
still haven't seen
the others. Not appearing in Independence Day Resurgence. Yep. Did I get that subtitle correct?
I believe so.
Yep. Even though, yeah. Go back to our catalog and see if I got that right. I don't know. I'm because he just does the same thing. It's the snarky, sarcastic, which worked. It was wonderful in like Bad Boys 2 and Independence Day and those other huge films that really established him as an action star. Yeah. But I feel like the charisma is waning for me a little bit. And especially so in this movie. It wasn't enough to carry it. I felt like he may have did the best with what he was given in the script or performance wise, but there wasn't a lot there for this character. For any of them really. Yeah. But just the banter never really played for me. It all felt really forced. The Bad Boys banter essentially. And I'll get into it a little bit, but this movie is derivative of a lot of other movies. I want to bookmark that for now. Okay. But well, he was okay. There were a couple moments where I'm like, slight smile there. I kind of enjoyed that line a little bit, but it never really, really worked for me as far as that relationship between him and Jacoby. It just was not working. I don't know. So that was my favorite performance. Yeah.
Okay, it was Will Smith. Fair enough. I do understand the whole Will Smith not being an action film anymore. It does feel like at this point he should have been the captain at the station rather than the main guy. I enjoy Will Smith myself in films, and I think what's best is if he's given the option to take something and kind of run with it, and then maybe do a little bit off the side. Like I really liked him in what is it? I Am Legend. I don't think that film is great, but I liked him in it. I thought he did really well with the slow stuff.
That was pretty decent casting. Yeah.
I think more stuff like that, where it's just like more slow. Like he's by himself, having to survive in this world, and he's kind of working towards a resolution rather than all-out action. I don't think I've never seen him as an all-out action thing. The closest, I think, is Men in Black, where he does comedy action. Like, I think he's more built for that than flat-out real action. And again, I actually enjoyed seeing him in this, but I think Joel Edgerton did better. Again, it is entirely based on what they were given. I don't know if they had much give with the script. I don't know how the director was. I don't know if they were willing to go with it, but I felt that purely from a character standpoint, I think that he had the best character in it, and that he was probably the deepest character in the film.
It was definitely written like we're supposed to really love this guy.
Yeah.
And I felt that being forced on me.
Oh,
and
yeah.
resisted.
Yeah, I liked Daryl Ward way more than I liked Nick Jacoby, just based on personality, right? But I do think that Nick Jacoby was a better character overall.
Jacoby was like Drax light. He was
kinda.
You like Drax, you may like Jacoby.
Yeah, and obviously it was played out. He's very much the newbie, even though he'd been on the force for a while. There were several moments where he's supposed to be this incredibly green, like just especially the ending. The ending I thought was a good place to put that he hasn't really changed, but he's sort of learning, which is hopefully Will Smith's character. At the end of the film, they're having to talk to the magic people, and Will Smith is just saying, like, there was no wand, nothing happened, we're all good, like, all of this stuff. And Joel Edgerton's character initially starts off with, like, Will Smith said, I'll talk, you don't say anything. Okay. Oh my god, there was this one and all this. It's like, okay, that was a bit too much.
I refer to this in my notes as the hospital bedside comedy routine.
Yeah, a little much. I thought that what might have been best was if he would start to interject and Will Smith maybe just keep looking at him just like, shut up, like while he's giving it, and then he's slowly dawns on him, oh, right, this is us getting out of it. But again, just to maybe, I don't know, maybe they'll release a DVD and there will be alternate takes of some scenes.
Well, I will never see them.
I know. Yes. I am not going to buy it myself either. I am fine with having seen this for free in quotation marks. Obviously, Netflix subscription.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that I'll say it now. Probably the biggest problem with this film, as we've kind of touched on here and there, it was written one way and they didn't seem to have anyone come to them and say, why don't we just try something else? Like you've obviously got an idea in your head, as you said, other films like Bad Boys 2, like, here, let's have the Bad Boys 2 scene here, let's have this scene over here, let's have the all-out action scene right here. Like, we got all of this stuff because people love that. It's like, why not take the characters and try something new? Like, the premise itself is actually kind of unique. I'm sure it's done before in books and maybe some other films, but I've not really seen this type of scenario before. So there was great potential. And then they really did lean quite heavily on tropes and previous films. It's like, could you not have... You're Netflix. You're allowed a bit of autonomy. Like, just take a risk a little bit.
Yeah, I felt like this was just a puzzle putting together other, like you said, like the Bad Boy scene here. It was like I started this note out by saying this movie is fucking weird, but I said it's derivative of Men in Black. Bad Boys. Franchise, R.I.P.D., Shades of R.I.P., which I've never seen, but I feel like it's a lot of R.I.P.D. and
kinda
with Underworld, like definite shades of Underworld. A lot of aesthetic of Underworld, and also Fifth Element, which would very much like to be left out of this narrative, I'm sure, but was Tika not Lelu?
Kinda.
Sorry, I mispronounced. Yeah, Lulu. Like with her cowering in a corner for like 90 minutes, and
Yeah.
and we did have Layla as a character, which really, I'm like, for a second I was like, that confused my mind. I'm like, wait, is she Layla? Because she's acting like Layla. But yeah, a couple others in there, but yeah, it just seemed copy and paste of these fantasy action films.
Yeah, it is one of those things where I can understand both sides, and I hate kind of being this logical every now and again, because I'm perfectly willing to go, okay, well, they've done this because they clearly want to appeal to as many people as possible, but they then end up with something that is like just standing up on previous examples and going off that, which is, yeah, it worked for some films, doesn't work for others, and in this case, because it was so unique a premise, it didn't work, because you were going, oh, this is going to be no, okay, I'm just rewatching about 5 films I've seen before, and yeah, I don't know if it was Netflix trying to be safe, or if the people that wrote it and directed it genuinely didn't realise, and I kind of refuse to believe that. I don't think that they didn't know what was going on, especially since Will Smith was in several films that this clearly draws from. So it's like, surely he's in the middle of a scene going, deja vu right now.
Exactly, yeah. And none of them were of that quality, at least. Or this was not of that quality of those, I should say.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to go. I guess, so really there was to try to get back into the plot a little bit for people that haven't seen it. But so you have the gangsters after this thing. You have the elf hierarchy after this thing.
Yes, the Inferni.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Inferni, yeah. And then our main guys trying to protect it. Or
yes.
What is their mission with that? What were they trying to get it to?
Well, I believe they were first and foremost just trying to get it away from the big bad, and that's.
But I mean, what was their Mordor? What was?
I think,
or equivalent thereof.
It seemed to me that Will Smith's character just wanted to get it away from the gangs that were trying to use it for their own purposes, away from the bad guy that clearly wanted it for nefarious purposes, and just to somewhere where it could be protected. Like, I mean, he wanted to get it away. That's all he wanted. Away. He didn't want it near him.
In quotes, away. Get it away. And
then they ended up, and this was the one thing that I didn't fully get.
Thing. Wow, good for you.
I was able.
You're lucky. I'm jealous.
I was able to kind of roll with everything that they were going with, but the one thing that I thought was odd is how they implemented this kind of area of effect where the wand aligns itself to whoever it's with. I guess I don't know if it's whoever touches it last and doesn't die, or whoever is just with it the longest. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you can't take the wand a certain distance away from the person it's aligned to, because it will just stop you. As it does.
It's a Bluetooth speaker. Okay, yes. Got it. You cannot walk 40 feet away without losing the connection. Okay.
So they have that, which is just to, obviously keep them close to the action, narrative-wide, blah, blah, blah. But if that's the case, surely the person who owns the wand must kind of sense where it is or something. Like, if the wand doesn't want to be far away from the person, I would naturally assume, and again, it's magic, there are no real rules, blah blah blah, and all of that sort of stuff, because magic doesn't exist. Sorry to spoil your perception on that if any of you believe in magic, but if there's a connection like that from the wand to the person, then surely the person would feel the connection to the wand as well. They wouldn't just go around to clubs and go, is it here? Did you see the wand? Like, oh no, kill him.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you.
Did you see the wand? Like, what? No. Like,
and just like with a picture of the wand, has anyone seen this wand? Yeah. And flyers on poles.
Just a rip off
reward.
Yeah, and it was, and again, like, I I don't mind these sorts of films. I enjoyed watching it, and this is me going back with a critical view of it. Like, I definitely have a very different viewpoint of this personally to reviewing, because there are so many problems with this film.
Oh yeah, no argument here.
Yep, but I feel that they wrote themselves into a corner with the one thing, because Will Smith's character and Joel Edgerton's character, they could have gotten away. They could have got somewhere where Layla wouldn't have been able to follow. Mm-hmm. So they were like, shit. Right, magical barrier. There, we saved it. And then they didn't bother to think of any of the consequences past that. So they then didn't think of any more.
It was just another excuse to use their super cheesy slow-mo.
Yeah. And I will say I enjoyed the slow motion shootout. The other slow-mo, yes, I think possibly because of the effects, didn't feel as good. Like the crumbling of the car and the inside, that felt like a very cheesy crumble of the
Once you've seen Deadpool, that bit's done.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. No one's doing it better than Deadpool, so just don't do it.
Yeah.
That's my take.
No, I agree. There are definitely better examples of it. So maybe, and again, this is me thinking back, like, how would I do it? I would just do it that they're driving away, you see a blue light, and then all of a sudden the car just stops. Like, you're outside the car, you just see it stop.
What's the jack system or whatever it's called? For stolen cars. Shut down.
It'll just stop. Like maybe the engine just crumples.
Sorry, I don't know the name, people.
The car stop. They all get out, and like you see him just fall to the ground. Like, what happened? And then Joel Edgerton's character can just say, "You can't take it one further away." It's like, that would have been nice to know. Like, some sort of interchange like
Another
that.
line I could have grown at. That would have been awesome. Yeah. No, I'm such a shithead. Okay, I apologize.
I think of, and again, I am not a filmmaker, therefore I am just coming up with this stuff off the top of my head based on other things, but I personally think that would have been a better way of doing that, and not having to rely on the showy spectacle of the slow-mo scene, which, as you said, I don't think that scene was that good. Like, no. Especially given funnier or like slightly better versions of it before. As I said, I enjoyed the slow-motion shooting of the corrupt cops just because I do kind of like that, and it didn't rely too much on effects. It was just kind of slowing down. The only effects they would have had would have been the shell casing, tracking that as the camera went round.
But it was a super odd song choice with the I don't even know what that song was, but I felt once again like Deadpool, like where it was like, just call me angel, but this was like a really weird emo song, and it was odd. Yeah, and it was, you don't want to fuck with us. It was like a lot, but it was so bizarre, and it did not work for me.
No, I mean, I get it. And yes, me being partially deaf, I probably wasn't paying that much attention to it. I was more focused on the visuals, so I enjoyed seeing that. And I think that actually might be a big thing about this film that a lot of people have trouble with. Visually, this film is actually quite nice. Like, there's a lot of dark, things.
I'm trying to come to your side here.
There's a lot of like blacks with the colors that really clash with that. There's especially the flashing blue and red lights that are pretty much everywhere. Like when they're hiding and you see the flashing blue and red, and that lights up the room. It really is a nice, pleasing aesthetic to the film. The problem is some of the dialogue or some of the music choices or things like that. Like, and as we said, a couple of the slow-mo scenes, things like that. Yeah, it's one of those things where I think that this film works better if you're not following the dialogue as much, or not following the audio and more into it visually. And that, I know it's a bit of a weird thing to say, as like, oh, just don't pay attention to dialogue. I'm not necessarily saying that, but and I think it helps, obviously, you being more...
Like a Terrence Malick movie. Just look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that this film looks good, but doesn't have a huge amount more behind it, and that's probably where the big disparity comes from. Like, a critical glance at this film, actually trying to take into account plot structure, actually like delving into all of this stuff, it doesn't come off that great.
No.
But let's assume you went to the cinema to see it. You get to just sit back in your nice chair, you get to just like watch it, just see it in the darkened theater with all the lights all working. I think that would have come out better.
Oh, I would have been so angry if I watched this in a theater.
Okay, yes. If you'd paid your money to go and see it, fair enough. But
if I had gotten in a car to go see this, I would have been very angry.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's going to be something that is kind of difficult to explain to someone else that isn't along the same line. But yeah, it really is like visually good, not so much everything else. So like I said, I am fully aware of why people don't like this film. Obviously, you are giving out your stuff. Like I can get behind. Yeah, this bit wasn't great. They definitely could have done that better. But overall, just as an experience of sitting down and watching it, because I am way more drawn to the visuals, because I'm way more like looking into that sort of stuff, I thought I enjoyed watching it now. And as you heard, my critical evaluation is nowhere near my personal take on it. But yeah, so I'm trying to say, what? Okay.
Yeah.
My last question then for you. Obviously, you didn't like it.
I don't even know if we'll get to all the things I want to say, but that's fine.
Not really a fan of many of the performances. What would you say is the thing you hated most about this film?
Hated them? Ooh, that is tough. That's like trying to pick out the best performance.
Well, that's fine. That's it. What if I tell you mine?
Go ahead. Yeah, maybe that'll spark something here.
All right. So the thing that I hated the most about this film, and as you heard, I don't really hate much about it. I just have niggles and stuff. But the thing I actually didn't like is that they killed Nick Jacoby and then had Tika bring him back. I mean, obviously,
which no one should be surprised at.
No, yeah, that's it. It wasn't a surprise, and like she was able to use the wand. I don't believe they specifically said she was a bright. She was just kind of trained to use the wand, so I don't know if that's a thing, but whatever. But I felt like that was just in there to show this is the power of the wand. And based solely on everything else that was in it, I didn't need that. I know you've said several times what someone can do with these wands. They can bring back the most powerful dark magic user of all time with these, and we just need to get this away from someone. And it's like, well, no, we need to have someone killed off that we even someone that's following this that might be enjoying it, and then they kill off the person. They're like, he'll be back in 2 minutes. Like, they're not going to have him dead with half an hour of runtime to go. Like, he's going to come back. There's a sequel, like that, which I think was a weird thing when they announced there was going to be a sequel. Because I think
you don't necessarily know who's signed up for the sequel.
Yeah, I think they announced something. I don't know if they were trying to do it. They announced there would be a sequel with several people, but one person wouldn't be in it, and that's how they announced it. So you could think it would be Joel. You might think it would be him, but even so, half an hour to go, I couldn't. I was like, okay, and yet talking. He's back. Okay, there we go. It was just unnecessary. It was the most unnecessary thing for me.
10 or 15 minutes later into the film, and then you can buy that.
Yeah,
because that's when those kind of deaths need to happen.
Yeah, at the end in the pool. That would have been perfect. Like, right there, because then you could have...
But yeah, there's no emotional weight to it.
Yeah,
For one, I wasn't invested in the character at all anyway.
Yeah.
So I didn't give a shit if he was dead or not. So there was that.
Yeah, I mean, like... okay, let's say, at the end, big fight, you've got Layla kills Nick, and Del has the wand, and he has to choose between killing Layla and bringing Nick back. Obviously it's you can rescue your friend or you can kill me.
Yeah,
but
I think son choice or
and for someone like him, I think that would have been different, because that would have shown, even though he dislikes this orc guy that's been forced upon him, he is still way more. He's not going to let that happen. I think that would have been better. But so like I said, that scene, when it was, how it was done, utterly pointless. It was it was just filling time, in my opinion.
Okay. So that helped me think of I kind of have two things, if you will allow me to bend the rules here of this question. One, I've already touched on it, was the just complete irresponsibility of the world building. I just felt like it was just so lazy and assumed that we would just go on this ride without sucking us into it,
right?
Which you need to do, and I never felt that. And it's okay, there are fairies, and that's all right. I'm willing to go along with those things, but back it up with good storytelling, and back it up with a little bit of origin, just a little bit. I don't need a ton. Yeah, you said the credits and all that stuff.
Yeah,
but I just still felt like it was very sloppy world building. So that really just stuck with me and kind of allowed me to not that I would have enjoyed this anyway. I would have come around to not liking this anyway. But it really kind of stacked the deck against this for me. And then the other thing was just on a wider scale, the screenwriting, closer up, a lot of Jacoby stuff. A lot of his lines were so bad, groan worthy bad.
Yeah.
I wrote one early on, these people died so bad. That was a line in this movie, Paul. These people died so bad.
Yeah.
This isn't a man that just learned. Okay, English as a second language, got it, Jacoby. But you do, you do speak it fluently as it appears. So maybe reach for some higher shelf adjectives next time. Just some advice there. And then there was another part back to where he, before his somewhat temporary murder, we get the orcish dialogue of the kid that's going to earn his colors or whatever in this gang by killing Jacoby. And big shocker, it's the kid that Jacoby let go in the initial pursuit. That kind of kicked off this whole thing. But they have that discussion, in Orcish, the big gang leader guy, and who's the dad or whatever. It's okay, and he's I can't do it. Let me go. And Orcish, Jacoby, that's the guy that I let go. We just heard that.
Yeah.
There is no need for that line at all.
Yeah.
I know that might seem like something minor, but it's just one of those clues that show you how lazy the script is.
Yeah. Well, on top of that, that's there purely for Dell's thing, which I think
it's not for us to watch it be explained to him.
Yeah, exactly. I think that Dell would figure that out. I think
a better line would be for Ward is to put it together.
Yeah,
respect the tone. That's the guy you like. Yeah, okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. If you're gonna go there, that's the better way to do it.
Yeah, I think
so. So just there's so many and then what are the other main things we didn't even get to, or we haven't really talked about Poison too much. Poison being the lead gang member in the wheelchair. Shout out to Poison.
Oh yeah.
But he has them cornered in this, pardon the parlance, titty bar. With them behind a booth or something, or they're hiding behind a booth or whatever, and Poison is just talking about his whole deal and whatever, his troubles and all this, and he lifts up his shirt to show no one his colostomy bag. Yep. He lifts it up. They are obscured from view. They cannot see this.
Yep.
And just why is he lifting that up? they can't see it. I don't know. And then also the line, help me make love to my old lady again. Barf. No, I will not. Flat out refusal there. Yep. Just a really weird movie.
Yeah. But the other thing is...
So to answer your question, it was everything. I hated everything.
The other thing is that it's well known, apparently, that only a bright can hold the wand. And yet
everyone told that in the opening title card.
Yeah, and yet everyone seems to be under the impression that even if you're not a bright, you can still use it. Like police, they all seem to think, well, we're going to use
the
that.
one mustachio guy, he grabbed it with a glove, right?
Yeah, but they were all saying we're going to use this to do this. How? It very
you have to be trained, right? Because that's the first thing. We're jump ahead when we shockingly in quotes find out that Will Smith is a bright. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry, but watch more movies if you didn't know that Will Smith was going to be a bright.
Yes.
If that sounds pretentious, I apologize. But you should see that one coming. When he grabbed it, I'm like, well, he doesn't know what the hell to do with it.
Yeah,
she had to tell him the word to
do something.
To kill them all.
Yeah.
Or to, his Dracarys, that's from my Game of Thrones people, the Dracarys word. But yeah, what the hell are they going to do with the thing?
Yeah, they're not they're the manual that goes with it.
No.
So how are they
Google,
going to
how do I use Magic Wand? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at least the gangsters might have more luck because they'll, torture people until they find someone that happens to know a little bit about someone that might be able to help them. But, yeah, it's very, very weird. And I also, the one thing I'd like to know is where the ones came from. And there's one question I had that I kind of wish had been in some way answered. It didn't have to be someone standing there talking to screen. But
we don't need the 15-minute prologue in Lord of the Rings because they're setting up 3 films.
Exactly.
So we need all that information.
Yeah, maybe
but something.
Maybe even in the graffiti at the beginning, the first bit of graffiti, first few pieces could have been almost like cave painting esque. Mm-hmm. The one just kind of being there, people picking them up, things happening, and then leading up.
I wouldn't have even minded something as tropey as the newscast that or the radio announce. Talk about this. You're from human fairy relation, whatever, orc relations, or at an all-time something like that. You can sneak some world building in, and it's tropey, but it's better than what we got.
Yeah, well, he was listening to the radio in the morning. Yeah, that would have been perfect. When they're talking, just having in the background for people that care enough, having them mention one, something about where they might have come from, something like that. But yeah, there's no explanation as to where it came from or why it's as powerful as it is. And like I said, that is the only thing I wish we'd been given more.
Yeah, and if you're waiting till the next movie to tell us that you're really kind of overplaying your hand. To expect people to love this movie so much that they're interested in getting the answers that they had in this one, in the second one. That doesn't work for me, and that's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to go with, but so many. I'm showing Paul my notes here. They're all random.
You've only got half of them ticked off.
I know, that's fine, and I think we probably have to get wrapped up here. So
I would say so.
Yeah. Could I pick out a couple?
I'll tell you, okay, how do you want to do this? I could give my rating on it, and then you could pick out your last few that you really want to get out, and then give your rating.
Okay.
Give you time to just quickly scroll through them.
Okay, absolutely. Sounds like a plan.
All right. Well, like I said, I have 2 very different opinions on this. I have my personal opinion, which I'm not going to give.
I think it's kind of cheating, if I'm being honest,
No,
people.
I'm not going to give my personal opinion on this. I am going to give my critical opinion on this one, because that's what I feel would be best. So yeah, personally, I enjoyed watching this, but as we have gone over, as you have been very vocal on, there are many issues with the film.
No.
So I think my critical assessment of this film, I can't fault too much of the acting. I couldn't find too many continuity errors. I was looking. That is one thing that I tend to unconsciously look for when I'm watching anything. And visually, it was great, but yeah, the pacing, the story telling that they did, not so great. The unanswered question, which was important to one scene that I really didn't like. I think I'm gonna have to give this kind of a middle of the road review of I'm gonna say like a minus 5.5 for this one. So yeah, I can't give that critically a better review because there's just so many little things that it just built up to just too many things wrong with it. Again, personally, I might even rewatch this, just kind of turn the brain off, just watch sort of a visual spectacle. But yeah, critically, I probably wouldn't recommend this to someone that isn't the same as me when it comes to the visuals and stuff like that.
Okay, got it. Fair point. And just real quick for also people not familiar with the rating, super 5-second explanation. Every film starts at a perfect 0.0. We take off points after that, negative points. So negative 5.5 from Paul.
Because we are very negative people.
Kind of, essentially. So usually capping at 10 unless they can be scale busters, which have happened.
Yes.
Yeah. So there was... this is such a dumb thing to mention, but I really wanted to mention it. So there was a part where Layla gets shot by Jacoby at the near the end of the film.
Yep.
In an open refrigerator. And I was disturbed by the amount of snack packs that were in this refrigerator. I'm very concerned for this person's diet.
Yep.
It looked like snack packs and fruit cocktails. It was all that was in this fridge. And then some sort of Snapple product or vitamin water. You couldn't see the labels. But I was very interested in that. Obviously, I was looking for anything to keep my interest at that point. Like, whoa! Like, you buy a snack pack and you feel shitty about it, and you eat the 4 things or 2 things in there, and you throw them away and you cover it up with a paper towel so you don't look at it anymore. This was like 6 or 7. There was a lot of snack packs in there.
Maybe they worked for that company. Okay.
Sure. Once again, making wild leaps to excuse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying.
So yeah. So there was that. And then I did just want to just kind of generally go over. I guess I'll go into my wind down. I'll just skip everything else. Yeah. There's some other things I want to mention. Draco Malfoy off. I want to, you know who I mean? Yeah, I was Draco Malfoy. And Draco. I'm sorry. My pronunciations are off today. And then the John Not So Goodman was his partner. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Okay.
Fair enough.
Did not get to that. Need to throw those gems out there. So just to wind down to my rating, which shocker, wonder what that's going to be. I already touched on it. I'm over Will Smith as this action star, unless there is good, like a great captivating story with it.
Yep.
I was all for him for Independence Day 2. If he had been in that, that would have been a much more watchable movie.
Yeah.
Would have been fun. More fun. Not to say that was a ton of fun, but go listen to that one. I want to see him do some interesting stuff. He's not the youngest guy anymore. So it seems like he does this type of thing or obvious Oscar bait. Which the obvious Oscar bait is not working. Collateral Beauty, I think, was the most recent of those. That 7 Pounds Business from years ago.
If we didn't get anything for Pursuit of Happiness, he's probably not going to get anything.
Well, he should have won for Ali.
True.
Which Denzel won that year, and that was the wrong movie to have Denzel win for Training Day. I don't want to get too much into that, but let's give the award to a black man that is playing a corrupt gangster wannabe cop. Come on, Academy. But you could have given it to an African American with Will Smith and a great performance in Ali. So yeah, the Oscars screw something up? Never. Crazy. But yeah, I just want to see interesting stuff from him. I want to see supporting stuff from him.
Yeah.
He doesn't always need to be the draw. I want to see him in these partnerships that aren't, I don't know, buddy cop movies or, I don't know. I just want to see him work with interesting directors And that's not to say David Ayer can't be a good director. End of Watch is a great movie if anyone's seen that. It's probably my favorite cop film.
Right.
Despite Michael Pena, I love Michael Pena, but he's super problematic. Google it if you don't know. I'm not getting into it, but super problematic. I still like that movie a lot. And I don't know. I want to see different stuff from him. So with that kind of being said, one of the larger issues for me is Netflix's kind of scatter fire bulk content plan, where they just release so much. You throw 1,000 darts at a dartboard, a few are going to hit a bullseye, and that's kind of their business plan right now.
Yeah.
And so you get a Stranger Things, and you get a Black Mirror, and you get a couple of these big original movies that hit.
Yeah.
But they're also billions in debt. So apparently they have a plan to get out of this.
Yeah.
But that plan for me is just conducive to mediocrity. And that's like kind of a larger scale issue for me.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm being too long-winded here. It would be minus 8.5 for me.
Okay.
I hated this movie. If I haven't been clear on that. If anyone's been tuned out for a while.
Yeah.
I will not be watching this again. This will not be a turn my brain off. This will be a blow my brains out movie. So, that's it. That's it for me.
Okay.
I'm sorry I went too long there, Paul, but yeah.
No, that's fine.
Go ahead. Yeah. Any closing bits?
No, I do enjoy these episodes when we have some very differing opinions. I think it's always fun to hear the other side. I like this one.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I hope that everyone else listening enjoyed this, and I hope everyone else listening is looking forward to our 100th episode, which we kind of have an idea for.
Yes.
We're gonna get that kind of sorted in the next few days probably, and then we'll see what happens from there. So look out for that.
And Margaret Cho should have been in the movie more. Okay, that's all I'm saying. All right.
Yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly. So with all of that being said then, I've been Paul.
I've been Brian.
See you folks.
Bye.
In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Hang on a minute, lads. I've got a great idea.
Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.